You've probably heard of Ramadan, right? For over 1 billion Muslims, it's this one month a year that completely reshapes their entire world. And yeah, it's famous for fasting, but believe me, the real purpose goes so much deeper. We're talking about a time for a total spiritual reset, some serious reflection, and this incredible sense of community. So that's what we're going to dive into together today.
There's this amazing saying from the Prophet Muhammad that just perfectly captures the vibe of Ramadan. When the month of Ramadan starts, the gates of heaven are opened and the gates of hell are closed, and the devils are chained. I mean, wow. It paints this picture of a world that's, spiritually ready for a major change. It's like hitting a giant reset button for the soul, a time when the path to God, to forgiveness, to real devotion, it's believed to be completely wide open.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with what Ramadan is all about, then look at the daily rhythm of fasting. After that, we'll get into the purpose behind the hunger, check out its history, feel the intensity of the final nights, and wrap it all up with the huge celebration of Eid. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, a month of anticipation. This is all about a global spiritual reset. So Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar, and that word lunar is super important. Why? Because a lunar year is a bit shorter than the solar year we use. This means Ramadan actually moves through the seasons. So one year it might be in the dead of winter, and a decade later, it could be during the longest, hottest days of summer. It creates this really unique, shared experience for Muslims all over the globe. So, what exactly is Ramadan? Well, at its core, it's one of the 5 pillars of Islam. That means it's not just a tradition, it's a fundamental part of the faith. It's this whole month dedicated to fasting, extra prayer, and charity. But it's also a time for major spiritual discipline and deep reflection. The entire month commemorates when the Quran was first revealed. And all of this together, it unites a massive global community, the Ummah, in a really powerful way.
All right, let's get into the part of Ramadan that everyone knows about, the daily rhythm of fasting. It's all about discipline, from dawn to sunset.
Okay, so the Arabic word for fasting is sawm, and this is pretty cool. It literally means to refrain, and that word tells you everything. It's not just about refraining from food and drink, it's about refraining from negative things too. We're talking gossip, anger, bad habits. It's a holistic act of worship and self-discipline, from the inside out.
So, the fasting day is basically bookended by 2 really important meals. First, you have suhoor. This is the meal you eat before dawn. The whole point is to fuel up and hydrate for the long day ahead. It's usually a quiet, family-focused kind of meal. Then, at the other end of the day, right after sunset, you have iftar. This is the big one. It's when you break the fast, traditionally with dates and water. And it's often a huge social, celebratory thing with friends and the community. Okay, let's just get to the question everyone always asks. But not even water? And the answer is, yep, not even water. From dawn till sunset, it's a complete fast, from all food and all drink. And I know what you're thinking. Why? Why that level of commitment? Well, that question takes us right to the very core of what Ramadan is all about. Which brings us to our next section, the purpose beyond hunger. This is about training the soul. Because, and this is the key, the hunger and thirst aren't actually the goal. They're just the tools. They're the things you use to build something much, much bigger. And that something bigger has a name, taqwa. This is a really central idea in Islam. You can think of it as God consciousness. It's the state of being constantly aware of God, of your connection to the divine. And the idea is that this awareness, this taqwa, helps you guide your actions, your thoughts, and build some serious self-restraint. It's the ultimate goal of fasting. So if taqwa is the goal, how does fasting get you there? Well, think of it like a spiritual workout. That feeling of hunger, it's a constant physical reminder of how much you depend on God for everything. When you control something as basic as wanting a sip of water, you're building up your willpower muscle. You also start to feel this deep empathy for people who are hungry every day, not by choice. And let me tell you, that first sip of water at iftar, it becomes this powerful, unforgettable lesson in pure gratitude. It's basically a spiritual detox for your soul.
The Prophet Muhammad had this perfect analogy for it. He said, fasting is a shield, and that's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's a shield that protects you from your own worst impulses, from bad words, from anger, from jealousy. The idea is that the discipline you learn with your stomach should translate to discipline for your tongue and your heart.
Okay, so why this month? Why is Ramadan so incredibly holy? To get that, we have to go back in time, back to a history of revelation.
It all starts in the year 610, in a cave called Hira, During the month of Ramadan, the Prophet Muhammad received the very first revelation of the Quran. This is the birth of the scripture. Now, what's interesting is that the command to actually fast in Ramadan didn't come until about 14 years later, in 624. And get this, in that very same year, the tiny early Muslim community, while they were fasting, won this miraculous, decisive battle called the Battle of Badr. So right from the start, Ramadan was linked not just to revelation, but to incredible tests of faith.
So as the month goes on, you'd think people would get tired, right? But it's actually the opposite. The spiritual energy builds and builds, leading to this incredible climax, the sacred final nights.
Tucked away in the last 10 days of Ramadan is a night called Laylatul Qadr, or the Night of Power. This is believed to be the very night when those first verses of the Quran came down. It is, without a doubt, the holiest night of the entire year. And here's the catch. Nobody knows exactly which night it is. It's believed to be one of the odd-numbered nights, which encourages people to seek it out with intense worship through all of the final days. And the Quran itself tells us just how significant this night is. It says, "The night of glory is better than 1,000 months." Just let that sink in. 1,000 months. That's over 83 years. So the worship you do on this one night is believed to be more valuable than a lifetime of worship. It's an unbelievable opportunity for spiritual reward.
So you can imagine, people really try to make the most of these final nights. They'll spend huge parts of the night in special prayers, reading the Quran, and making personal supplications, or dua. Charity also ramps up, and some people take it a step further with something called itikaf. They'll actually go into a spiritual retreat, secluding themselves in a mosque just to focus completely on worship.
And then, after a whole month of this intense spiritual training, it all culminates in a massive, joyful celebration. It's called Eid al-Fitr, and that literally translates to the festival of the breaking of the fast. It's the party at the end of the spiritual marathon, marking the end of Ramadan and the start of the next month. So how do you celebrate Eid? Well, it's a huge 3-day festival of just pure joy and thankfulness. It starts with a special morning prayer service. After that, it's all about food and family. People get together for big meals, kids get new clothes and gifts, and everyone wishes each other Eid Mubarak, which means blessed holiday. And really importantly, before the celebrations kick off, a special charity is given to the poor to make sure absolutely everyone can join in the fun.
And that brings us to the final and maybe most important question. After a whole month of spiritual training, what happens next? See, the real goal isn't just to survive the month. It's to come out the other side changed. To take those lessons, that discipline, that empathy, that gratitude, and carry them into the rest of the year. The month of Ramadan ends, but the journey it starts, that's meant to last a lifetime. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.